Okay, guys, so again, I'm just gonna run through how to start a deal, and then we will go over some of the specific things that I've noticed people have been missing. Again, this is your dashboard here. To get to your deals, you're on the left side over here, and we're gonna go ahead and create a new deal. I'm gonna create a new borrower, and we're just gonna use our usual easy name. Hopefully nobody has, let's just go. We are now, if you want to invite the borrower to create an account, this is going to send them an email and it's going to allow them to fill out that application that we've gone through before. It, allows them to fill out name, birthday, SIN number, address, employment history, any properties that they've owned. So, if you have a more tech savvy borrower, it's not a bad thing to do. You can let them fill out the application and then you can request the documents that you need to fill in the blank. Obviously, we're not going to invite the borrower to create an account because they're not a real borrower. And then you're going to set your goal. So purchase, switch transfer, or refinance. Let's just go for a purchase on this one to make things easier. All your categories are available here on the left side. So in order to add a borrower, you just click add borrower here. And then as you scroll down, you see that you change categories. The first thing that you want to do is make sure that you have a closing date selected. That way your documents will populate correctly. And then if if your client's purchasing a property, I would just go ahead and get started here. And no financing condition. We're going to do owner occupied and they have found the property. So we'll go ahead and save those details. You typically will have to have a phone number entered. Most lenders require email and phone number for submission purposes. So keep in mind if you're getting errors, that's one reason why. All of this information also needs to be filled as well, whether or not they're a first-time home buyer, their marital status. Their SIN number is not typically required for submission, but a lot of lenders will ask you for it if it's not there when you submit. Go January 1st. And then some lenders, specifically Scotiabank, want their work phone number and they get errors in their submission when receiving it if you don't have the work phone number entered. I typically don't. Most don't care about that. So if you have it, you can enter it. This is one of the big issues that some agents have been running across is their living history. So let's just put in I don't know. There we go. 123 Queen Street. Sometimes with the autocomplete, the postal code will not carry over. I don't know why this happens, but it won't let you save it if it's not there. So just Google the property and enter the postal code so you can save it. And then the other thing is that you have to have a 3-year living history. All lenders require a 3-year living history. If you put in an address that they've been at for 1 year, but their credit bureau shows that they've been there or if you say that they've been there for 3 years, but their credit bureau only shows 1 year and that they were living at previous addresses, there's different addresses there, the lender's going to ask about it. So it's best to just tell the client that you need 3 years of living history. It's going to ask you their move-in date. So let's say she moved in here in 2023 and she moved out January 1st, 2020. No, we'll say that she still lives there. Okay, that's not going to clear. So we only have 1 year and 5 months living history, so we need to add in additional living history. So we need to enter the address and then let's say 321. There we go. Toronto. So again, you want to make sure your postal code's there. And then we're just going to say that she was living there from 2019. You basically have to make it the day that they moved into their current property. There we go. And now we have more than enough living history. 1 year and 5 months is not enough. It has to be a minimum of 3 years. Um, this is the employment history and other income is something that a lot of people I've noticed have been having issues with, just distinguishing the two. So a source of employment is a job. It's when you're receiving funds, through working. Other income is going to be things like Canada Child Benefit, OAS, CPP, child support, spousal support, that sort of thing. You are not entering rental income under other income. You are going to enter that under properties owned or under your subject property because it is added back into the gross income differently. So obviously, source of employment, employed or self-employed, you're going to enter the business name. So let's say she works at McDonald's in Canada. Find a McDonald's in Toronto. There we go. So it's going to auto-populate all the business address. This all needs to be filled out if there's a little red star next to it. And this is kind of where people are running into problems. So she works in, let's say, services. She works as, let's say she's a manager of McDonald's. She is the manager. Her job type is full-time. Now, this is where people are, the payment type and the income frequency is where people are getting confused. If they work non-guaranteed hours, meaning they are a part-time employee, but they're working full-time hours. That's non-guaranteed hours. If they work in construction and they don't get paid on days where it rains because there's no work, that is non-guaranteed hours. If they work hourly, so if they're paid, $25 an hour and they work a minimum of 40 hours a week, that is guaranteed hours. A salaried employee makes a fixed amount for the year. So say they make $75,000 a year, and a commission only, you may still work for somebody, but you are commissioned. So, let's say a car salesman, he's not necessarily self-employed, but he would make commission only. So we're going to put her as salaried. And she makes $150,000 a year salary, meaning she makes $150,000 annually. Now, if she works hourly, and she's got guaranteed hours, and she makes, $35 an hour at 37.5 a week, and that's what her letter of employment says, then we're going to calculate 35 at 37.5, which is 13,1250, and we can put that weekly. Okay, so if you calculate their annual income, you need to make sure it says annually. We're having a lot of people putting, they make $28,000 and then they say they get paid biweekly. So now it's going to say that they're receiving $28,000 every 2 weeks. So we want to make sure that we're putting in the total income. Honestly, the easiest way to do it is just put total income annually versus what they receive on a biweekly paycheck, what they receive on a monthly paycheck. Calculate what their annual income is and put the income frequency as annually. If they receive bonus and overtime commissions, you almost always require a 2-year average unless it's guaranteed. So you're just going to add it into the income. If you put yes, then the lender's just going to get confused. You can also just leave that blank. And then again, you do require 3 years of employment history. Anything less, the lender is going to come back to you and ask questions. So we're just going to put her as having, 4 years and a bit of employment history there. So this is one that you really need to pay attention to, is your payment type, your income from the source, and the income frequency. You just want to make sure that you have your numbers correct. Pretty much everybody who's having GDS and TDS issues that come to me to look at the application, it's because this is inputted wrong. It's inputted, $150,000 biweekly. That's where people are getting confused. Again, other income. So you can see all the sources here: pension, CPP, OAS, child support, spousal support, CCB, survivor benefit pension, other. Other would be, say they have a private Sun Life pension or something that they receive. Well, I guess that would go under pension. There's a ton of different things. So let's just say that she gets paid CCB. And again, you want to make sure that you're putting your income frequency correctly. So let's say she gets $350 per month. You don't want to say the total that she receives. So if she receives $350 in a monthly, then she'd be, $4,200 annually. You want to make sure just because she gets paid monthly, this income is the annual amount. The start date again would be the day that her child was born. Most lenders are going to require children to be under the age of 12. So be prepared if you're including something like Canada Child Benefit that you are going to have to get birth certificates or, well, pretty much only birth certificates are that's the only type of valid ID that children are going to have. Health cards are not an acceptable form of ID, unfortunately. So you're going to have to request birth certificates. Um, it can be a sensitive subject with some people. I don't know why they require an end date. Oh, there we go. Current source of income. Yes, there we go. So again, other types of other income, say they have child support or spousal support, they're going to require the divorce or separation agreement, which again can be a touchy subject. So I typically tell people upfront, just so you know, if we're including child support or spousal support, be prepared to provide your separation agreement, the full notarized separation agreement, and bank statements confirming that you're receiving your child support or spousal support. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. We're not going to include anything there. And then obviously, if you are adding another borrower here, this is when you would, add the second person. So we're going to go in and we're going to add, say she has cash savings of $175,000. Oh, that's in here. You can add tons of different types: gift from family members, RSPs, investments, cash and checking or savings account, vehicles. Other could be, gold. Say she's got, gold bars and she's got $25,000. So you can add, I suggest, especially if it's, an application where they don't have a super high net worth, that you go in and you add the value of all of the vehicles that we have. So it applies against the loan that they have. Any household goods, so art, if they have a boat, anything that you think is going to make your application stronger, go in and add that to your assets section. Biggest thing that people are running into with their credit pull is that they don't have their birthday or they don't have their address included. So those are the only two things that you need to pull your client's credit, other than their name, is their birthday and their full address, including the postal code. Once you have that, even if you've spelt the name wrong, even if the address is not current, even if the birthday is wrong, if you have that information inputted, it will pull the credit or attempt to pull the credit. If you get a reject, that means your information is most likely incorrect. So go back and double check the birthday, double check the address. Say you get the address wrong or you spell the name wrong, typically it'll be able to find them based on the birthday, and it'll show that you've input the name incorrectly, but it will pull up the correct credit report. And then all of their liabilities are going to transfer over here. So we'll just input one here. And this is how they're going to show up. Type is credit card, description would be Visa, could be RBC credit card, could be Canadian Tire MasterCard, the limit, the balance, and the payment. Again, if you are, if your TDS is a little high, you need to pay off some debts, you're going to go pay off prior to the advance of the loan. If you are paying off this debt from the proceeds of a refinance, meaning that the lawyer is going to receive those funds and they're going to pay that debt off before they give any funds to the client, you're paying that from the proceeds of the loan. So it's important to remember prior to advance versus from proceeds. A couple things we can go over with properties. So let's say that she has an owner occupied property and she's selling it. And she's buying a new property, she's selling her current property. 1, 2, 3, Charles Street. The current property owner is her. The estimated property value is $500,000. She had purchased the property for $300,000. and she is selling at the same time as the purchase. Um, let's say that she's not going to put any of the cash towards the down payment because she has everything in savings already. She still has a mortgage on the property, so we're going to go ahead and enter the mortgage details. Again, I'm just making all of this up. She bought it for $300,000. Let's say she owes $185,000 on it. And her mortgage actually matures in June of this year. And she is going to pay this off prior to the advance of the loan. Now, sometimes you run into situations where the client is buying a new house, and let's say she's closing on the new house on June 15th, but she's not closing on her old house. So she's not selling her old house until, say, June 25th. So there's a 10-day gap there where she's holding both of the mortgages. You're still going to mark this off as paid prior to advance so that it's not included in the debt service ratios. And however, you do have to explain to the lender, you're going to have to show them a firm sale agreement. So if there were any conditions, you need to show them that the conditions were waived. You have to provide them with the APS and the MLS for the sale agreement. If your client is relying on funds from the sale of their existing property for the purchase of their new property, and the sale closes after the purchase, lenders, most of them, you can set up a bridge loan through them. So they'll basically lend them the money for the down payment that will be paid off when the sale closes. It really only works with A lenders. Most B lenders won't do that. So you would have to typically get a private bridge loan, which can be a pain, but it's always doable. There's always a solution. But honestly, it's just easier to have them close on the same day or have the sale close before the purchase, especially if they're going B or private, because otherwise it can be a bit of a mess. So she's selling this property. If she has a property, let's say she's not going to sell this property. Then we have to include her annual property taxes. So the property's worth $500,000. Let's say she pays $3,000 a month in property taxes and $100 in heating expenses. Now, her goal with this property, she currently lives in it, but the new property she's buying for herself is where she's going to live. So we're going to turn this property into a rental. And here's where you can add in your expected monthly rental income. So it's worth $500,000. Let's say she's going to get $2,500 a month. We're going to reduce the rental expense, add back to gross income because I want to send this to, say, Scotiabank, and I know that that's their rental inclusion policy. We don't have to include any of these expenses. Typically, this is only factored in when the client owns multiple rental properties, and in which case the lender is going to send you what's called a rental worksheet to fill out. So the only thing that you need to include is your heating expense and your annual property taxes. So we're going to save that. So now she is keeping this property, turning it into a rental, and buying a new one for herself to live in. All right, we're going to, let's go there. So again, you don't need to fill in lot, block, township, MLS listing. Yes, you do need to fill that in, but everything from here down is important to, well, from here down is important to fill out. This you would fill in if you don't necessarily have an address yet. So it's a new build and you're submitting for a purchase, and they haven't assigned an address to it yet. You could go ahead and fill in the lot, block, and the township for the lender. And when the address was assigned, they would update all of the documents. But this is an existing property. Let's say it's a semi-detached. It is not part of a condo corporation, so it's a freehold property. There's 1,200 square feet of living space, and the lot size is 4,000 square feet. We have forced air. We're on municipal water. We have one unit. The style is a 2-story. The age is about 15 years old, and there is a single attached garage. We do not have an environmental hazard, and we're on municipal sewage because we are in Toronto. Her property taxes, she's buying this property for $750,000. So let's say $4,500 annual taxes for 2024, and she wants to pay the taxes herself. There are no condo fees included, and our heating expense, it's just a regular size property, is going to be $100 a month. Now, in order for your GDS and your TDS to calculate correctly, you have to fill out your mortgage request details. So see how all of this is blank? This is not the GDS and TDS that is going to reflect when we add in our mortgage request. So she's buying the property for $75,000. She's putting $150,000 down, and she has a 20% down payment. So let's pop over to Lender Spotlight and have a look and see what they're offering. Let's say she wants a 5-year fixed. And we're going to do conventional uninsurable. So that's meaning she's putting 20% down, and we have a 30-year amortization. If she qualified with a 25-year amortization, but she was still putting 20% down, we could look at conventional insurable. But I have a feeling that we're going to need the 30-year amortization to qualify. So Drive's offering 5.59. Desjardins 4.94, but they're really tough to qualify with. Scotiabank's 5.39. Yeah, so what I thought we are going to go with Scotia's 5.39. Now, all of this has to be filled out in order for it to calculate your payment. There is no insurance premium, and we're going to use a 30-year amortization. And closed. So we're going to hit save. Our qualifying details, automatically it's going to update your qualifying details to the greater of 5.25 or contract rate +2. Just make sure that everything here is correct. And we're going to save the changes there. So we can see that our why isn't our mortgage payment calculating? It's only ever okay, here we go. Monthly payment. There we go. So we have our mortgage amount, our mortgage payment here, 5.39% interest rate on a 5-year fix. I did not enter a term here, so oh, there's a term there. Okay, so now that you have your mortgage request details, you have your payment, you can take a look at your GDS and your TDS and see that yes, she does qualify for this loan, with keeping the property that she has as a rental property. Does that make sense to everybody? Is there anything that you guys want me to review again here?
Makes sense to me.
Thank you. Are there any questions or anything that people have had that have popped up with deals? Anything that anybody else would like to share of deals that they've worked on, examples that they have for, problems that they've run into and have been able to solve? I'd love to have some participation in these meetings from everybody. I know when you're just getting started, it's tough to kind of understand things as they're happening without having worked on a live deal, but I would love to hear feedback from anybody.
Hey, Jenna, I have a question.
Sure.
I think I kind of asked it before, but I'm just going to ask for a bit of clarification because I've got I can't do a private, but I've got a private deal coming in that I'm sending saying the information. Can I just can I just fill this stuff into here, even though we don't know if it's going to be a deal that's going to go yet?
Absolutely.
And then I can just add saying to it or something, or he'll be able to grab it.
Yes. So if you're on his team, he is able to see everything that you do. You can add him. Yeah. So he'll be able to find it for you. You may have to add him as a submission agent. I'm not sure, but I think you should just be able to go into your profile and see the deals that you're working on. Most private lenders these days actually want a mortgage application. They're not just taking like a story anymore. So 100% go in, fill out your full application, put your deal together, get your credit pulled. And then when you do submit it, like you'll have all of that ready to go for him to send off to a private lender, and they will 100% thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And yeah, there's one. So when I'm in the app and I go there and I click on the side where it says brokerage. It says no brokerage team, no invite, but I am part of Kingsdale on there. I
Is
don't
it
know if
like,
that's like a separate thing or
is it when you go into your team settings?
no. If so I'm trying to look on the side at the moment, so I can't really. So if you on the sidebar, there should be a thing called brokerage.
I do not know if I'm
Is there not a
not.
listing called brokerage?
Does anybody else see it, or am
A
I just
brokerage
missing it?
team?
Let me see team
Uh,
settings. Maybe, is it in your personal settings?
maybe.
It
Yeah, if you go
might,
to
oh, sorry, where?
yeah, go down to your personal settings maybe or settings or
Maybe
profile.
control center? Is it under
No.
control? Okay.
I was just wondering if there was something missing, like I wasn't like I know that I'm linked, but it's a field that looks like it should have like Kingsdale Mortgage in it and stuff, but it doesn't.
Hey, Aaron,
I'll
what
yeah,
we can do if you want, I can give you a quick call later, and
yeah,
clear anything up with regards to that. Because my suspicion is you're probably just having a little bit of a confusion with your personal settings, because there is a team aspect there. It asks you for logos and branding, and then it talks about the brokerage, and yeah. So what I can definitely explain that for you, no problem.
yeah, yeah, awesome, thanks.
No worries.
Thanks, Marcin.
No problem. Yeah, so I just want to say, Jenna, this is great. Thank you for this. Very helpful, especially for a lot of the new agents that we've onboarded recently. I know that's a lot of agents, unfortunately, are waiting for their license with FISRA, and we've done everything that we can to push them, right? We've sent them calls, emails, texts, tried to go over their head to a degree, but same response, right? So at least they can get an understanding of what to learn ahead of time. So that way, when they do get their license number, this will just get set up really quick, and then they can start working on actual deals, right? So thank you for this. Could you take a look at, did you look at the lender spotlight option as well in terms of integration and whatnot? Could we take a look at that potentially?
Yeah, so let me see here. Basically, once your deal is put together, you can go to submit deal. It's going to bring this up, and then you can just click. So I'll close that out. Find available products. So it's going to auto-populate everything that you've put in here. So you want purchase, 30-year amortization, like it puts in the mortgage amount, property value, your DDS, TDS, all of that fun stuff. So all of the rates that it's pulling up, is what your client should qualify for. So you can see that it pulls everything up. Now what we should do, Marcin, actually, is we should talk to Frank about customizing this and removing the lenders that we don't use.
Sure,
So,
we can definitely do
taking
that.
out like, I don't even know, like,
We can definitely do that. Yeah.
yeah, that's probably a good idea and would be helpful for some of the newer agents who aren't familiar with like which lenders we do and don't use.
Definitely, definitely. That's a good point. I wanted to just ask you also really quick here. So, because I noticed that with these lenders here, for example, if you wanted to with the GDS and TDS ratios, or like if we wanted to consider A side versus B side, is there ways to like filter for that, like A side, B side, or anything, or is it just based off of like, there we go, there we go.
So yeah, so if you know that you're going to the B side, you're using stated income, you can go down here and click BFS bank statement and other BFS programs, and that's going to pull up basically all of the B lenders here that are going to allow you to do that. If you're looking for, lenders that do pre-approvals, you can go in and click pre-approvals. There are definitely more lenders that do pre-approvals than First National Financial. They're wrong with that.
Definitely.
If this is, I don't think any, if you need new to Canada, then you can pull up here and see new to Canada. Again, There's more lenders that do new to Canada, but maybe not on the conventional side because this is a
Right.
conventional mortgage. So the loan to value is 80%. Most lenders who do new to Canada are going to be insured versus conventional.
For sure.
So, you can see who offers a HELOC, which again, that cuts down your lenders significantly. Cottage and recreational properties, very limited. So if you can come down here and enter a couple of the qualities that, you have, if you want to do raw land. I know Desjardins does raw land, but probably because our LTV is 80%. So you can just come down here and punch in kind of some other additional qualities here and see how much it cuts your rates down and what lender options you have.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you for that. That's definitely very helpful as well. I don't know if anybody else has any additional questions, maybe Aaron or anybody else, but yeah, this was definitely very helpful. Thank you.
I just wanted to say to everybody again, if you are if you guys are waiting on your licensing, they are still only working on applications that were received before May 14th. So if you have been submitted after May 14th, they're not working on you yet. They're very behind. Like that, you know what? That's better than it was a couple weeks ago, though. So they are catching up. I understand people are frustrated, but unfortunately, there is literally nothing that the brokerage can do other than continue following up. I know if you guys will email them yourselves, you may get a little bit more of a response. Maybe it'll push, but honestly, it's the government. They
Yeah.
they don't rush.
No, they're definitely not in any rush to do anything, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But at least we can still work in the meantime on the training, right? So thank you. Can you pull up go back to the original like the application?
Yes.
So I just want to, for the application specifically, if you go into the application part, where the client has their information, so could you customize this a little bit just for an example's sake? Let's say the client wanted to do a refinance, right? Let's say they wanted to refinance their property because they wanted to actually buy another property, right? And they wanted to rent out this current property as like a rental income, right? And so if you could just kind of show really quick how you would put that in Finmo, right? How you would want to calculate the numbers to make sure the GDS and TDS adds up properly. Because I know that, especially for example, maybe it won't happen here because you're not going to pull credit, but sometimes it duplicates things, right? So maybe that's a good thing to keep an eye on for some of the new agents. It would be really helpful.
Yes. Yeah, so there was a deal that Marcin and I have been looking at. It is two clients. They own a property that's worth about $900,000 and they only have a $200,000 mortgage on it. So they have a significant amount of equity. What they want to do is they want to buy a new property to live in. They're downsizing and they want to rent their current property out. So similar to kind of the application that I've put together, but we would be doing two mortgages. So we would be refinancing their existing property, as well as purchasing, and so doing a mortgage for a purchase. So to confirm that they qualify for the purchase, you would need to calculate the approximate payment that they'd be looking at on the new property. And let's see, you'd need to calculate the payment that they're looking at on the new property as well as the payment that they're looking at on the existing property with the refinance. So there's a couple ways that you can do it. You can put together two deals and update them simultaneously. So you can put together a deal for the purchase, have it as a purchase deal with your refinance property in the properties owned, or you can do a deal for the refinance and add in a new property under properties owned, to represent the property that they're purchasing and calculate what the payment would be. So I'm going to do it the way that where we only keep one application. It's not the application that we're going to submit to the lender because we'd have to remove the property, but I'll talk you guys through it. So I will keep all the information here the same. So what we'll do is we'll go in and we will edit these details here. So we're going to put, there we go. So we're going to add the subject property this is the property that they are going to refinance and rent out. So currently it's an owner occupied property, but we are going to make it into a rental. It's worth about 900,000. They said it would be about $4,500 a month rental income because, the basement's been recently renovated, so they're going to use it as 2 separate units. We're going to reduce the rental expense and add the balance to gross income, and we're going to do a 50% rental inclusion because it's one address. Canada, again, I'm just using these pretend addresses because they're easy. The property owner, we're putting the estimated value in at 900,000. And our annual property taxes, that's worth 900. So let's say they're 4,500 a month. We're paying $100 a month in heating expenses. And again, none of this is going to matter. The property is still mortgaged. So they owe, I believe, 200,000. They pay $1,200 bi-weekly. And their mortgage is up for renewal in July. So we're going to, because we're refinancing and this is our subject property, we are paying off this mortgage, this $200,000 from the proceeds of the new mortgage. So there's our subject property all filled out. We're going to select that as our subject property and save those changes. So we are requesting a new mortgage amount of $400,000. They are going to put $200,000 down on their new purchase. We're just going to go with the 5-year fix because it's the easiest. So 5.39 5-year fixed first mortgage, compounding semi-annually. It's amortized over 30 years with a 5-year term. Just check that our qualifying details are correct, and we're going to go in and add our rental income there.
Hey, Jenna, really quick. So right before this slide, just go back when you were looking at the rate, you mentioned you're going to do a 5-year fix. You put down 5.39. So for example, for the agents in this case, right? Because what you're describing for this rate is you're assuming for the refinance, right?
Correct.
So then could we look at like lender spotlight, for example? Like, would this be an example of where the agent would look there and say, okay, what are the different options that
So typically when I am putting a deal together to figure out the GDS and TDS, I always put a 5% interest rate, a 7% qualifying rate. Because if you don't know whether you're going to need to do a 30-year amortization, you don't know if you're doing a 2-3-year term, you don't know if you're going to be on the A side or the B side. I always put 5 and 7. Just so you can get the general idea. Then if if you're using 5 and 7 and your GDS and your TDS are already up towards, 45, 47, you're going to be on the B side. So when you're looking at rates on Lender Spotlight, you're going to look at those B lenders. If your GDS and your TDS are only, 31, 35, then you can go and look more specifically. So I'll just qualify this based on 5 and 7. It's the easiest, it's kind of in between A and B rates right now. It's
perfect.
It's in the general area, so we'll just qualify based on 5 and 7.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then no, I want 5. Okay, that should be updated there. Okay, perfect. So why isn't this? All right, now we've gone in and we've made this a rental property, right? So we're adding our monthly rental income back into the gross income. So in this equation, they have no place to live. So we're actually going to go in and add in a subject, a new owner occupied property. We know they're going to want to be in the $750,000 range based on the conversation that we've had with the client. So we put them, we're going to 750,000. Their annual property taxes, let's say 3,500, and they have $100 a month heating expense. Now, what we need to do is we need to calculate what the expected payment is going to be. So I'm actually going to pop up here to the calculator. Unless I hit save changes, this is not going to This is not going to change my GDS and TDS. It's not going to update the information that we were just working on. I'm just using this to calculate the new mortgage payment on the new property. So we're going to go again 6% at a 5% qualifying rate, fixed for semi-annually, amortized over 30 years. And we'd be looking at 3,202 monthly. So I'm just going to hit cancel and add that in here. Where we go? There we go, 3,202. Again, we're just assuming a 5-year fixed monthly, and we're just going to keep that 600,000. So now this is going to add in their new mortgage payment here. So yeah, there you go. This is, now you can see we've refinanced the property for the $200,000 equity takeout that they're then going to use to purchase this additional owner occupied property with that $200,000 down payment. And we can see that they have no problem qualifying.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So hopefully that's clear. Quick question. So you mentioned, so why did you, for example, input the property information into Finmo directly, as opposed to, like you mentioned, having it in 2 separate applications? You kind of like do them side by side. You did them in one, right? So what's the difference between doing one versus both?
In my opinion, like as a new agent, it might make more sense for you to have 2 applications side by side so you
Right.
don't get confused.
That's what I, yeah,
But
exactly.
this is the simplest way to do it, in my opinion.
Sure.
It would also be like a huge pain to show you guys flipping back and forth, and
Oh,
we'd have
no,
to,
no,
you know,
no. I'm not
copy the
asking you to.
application and switch
No,
the
no, no,
part.
no, no, no. I'm not asking
Yeah.
to. I just want
But
to be clear for the agents, right?
yeah, so basically what you would do in this case is we'd keep this as, you know, if this is going to be a refinance, we're going to copy this application. We're going to calculate in our current application what our new payment is going to be for the refinance. We're going to not include this property in the, we would basically keep it as an owner occupied refinance application, not disclose a new property. So it would be just a simple refinance, $200,000 equity takeout. You can let the lender know that they'd be looking to purchase a property in the future. That's what the funds are for. In your copied application, you would switch your purpose from a refinance to a purchase. You would update the mortgage information that you take from your original application, from your new loan amount, your new interest rate, your new payment, and you would essentially do a purchase of a property, 750, 200,000 down, and just ensure that your GDS and TDS are within line. Do we need to have their current address on the deal? What if they don't live in the province or even Canada? Yes, you have to include their current address on the deal. They have to have an address. If they don't live in Canada, you can't buy, if you are a non-resident, you can't buy a property in Canada anyway. So there's your answer. It's the rules around the buying of properties for non-residents are very complicated. There are ways that people get around it, you know, buying in corporations that a certain percentage is owned by a Canadian, blah, blah, blah. It's a huge pain to deal with, but it's pretty much impossible to do outside of certain, like there are certain zones that non-residents can buy properties in, but most urban centers or anywhere near an urban center, no.
Perfect. Thank you for that. I think that's all the questions for today. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in or not.
I have another further question, just with the lender spotlight. I guess we can't link with our brokerage with the lenders and have our buy down rates clicked into it. We'll have to do that, find that out separately, or
They actually can. They can customize that for us, I believe. I don't think it's been done, but they can customize it with, you know, what rate discounts we get. So, you know, if TD is going to give us better rates, we just have to let lender spotlight know.
Yeah.
And you usually can find the buy down like rates let's see who allows buy downs.
Yeah,
Like,
I was just looking through it right now. I couldn't find it, so that's why.
they may include it under guidelines or documents. I know Scotia does
Mhm.
on their website, like they tell us all about it on their website. It just depends on whether or not they've uploaded it here. Let's see. Oh, of course. Why would they give us a Word document of all things? Okay, that's net worth, gift letter. I don't think, yeah, sorry guys, I don't pay for Microsoft Word,
Yeah.
so I don't know if it's on here.
Yeah. But anyways, I just thought that would be a good question and see if if that's possible, if we can get that updated. That way we can quickly kind of figure out
Hey,
what we can
Aaron.
do for our clients.
So what I'll do is I'll talk to Frank about that because I have a couple
Yep.
things I'm going to meet with him anyway. So I'll just make sure to note that.
Your loan amount is, how much you can buy it down, but we can definitely put in any rate discounts that we get. So that's something, at least.
Awesome. Thanks.
Any other questions?